Hello everyone, and welcome back to another heartfelt video from Gone Legends. Each day, we remember and honor the lives of remarkable stars who left their mark on Hollywood and on all of us. In today's episode, we'll take a moment to reflect on the stories, struggles, and legacies of American icons who have recently passed away. Legends whose talent, courage, and humanity continue to inspire millions around the world. Before we begin, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who remember these incredible individuals. It really helps our community grow and ensures that their stories are never forgotten. Thank you so much for watching and for keeping the memory of these extraordinary lives alive. Now, let's begin today's tribute.
Though Swedish-born, Tim Bergling, known to the world as Avicii, became one of the most influential figures in modern electronic dance music and left an impact that stretched far beyond borders, genres, and generations. Born on September 8, 1989, in Stockholm, Sweden, Tim showed a deep passion for music from a young age. What began as a hobby in his bedroom soon turned into a revolution. By blending uplifting melodies, emotional lyrics, and electronic beats, Avicii created a sound that spoke to millions, a sound that defined a new era of global dance music. In 2011, his breakthrough single Levels took the world by storm. With its euphoric synths and soulful energy, it became an anthem not just for clubs and festivals, but for an entire generation that found joy, unity, and escape in his music. Avicii's ability to fuse emotional depth with danceable rhythms set him apart, making EDM more than just music to move to. It became something to feel. As his fame grew, Avicii didn't slow down. Hits like Wake Me Up, Hey Brother, Waiting for Love, and The Nights showcased his unique ability to merge genres, bringing together country, pop, soul, and electronic music in ways that had never been done before. Through these songs, he turned EDM into a universal language, one that resonated from small-town radios to massive festival stages across the globe. But behind the fame and flashing lights, Tim faced silent battles. The pressures of touring, the weight of fame, and the toll of constant performance took a deep emotional and physical toll. In 2016, he made the difficult decision to retire from touring, seeking peace, balance, and a healthier life away from the relentless demands of the music industry. Tragically, on April 20, 2018, Avicii died by suicide in Muscat, Oman. He was only 28 years old. His passing shocked the world and opened a vital conversation about mental health, especially within the music industry. Through his story, the world began to see that even those who seem to bring the most joy to others can be fighting unseen battles within. Avicii's legacy, however, lives on stronger than ever. He didn't just make music, he changed music. He brought EDM into mainstream American pop culture, made dance floors across the world feel united, and inspired countless young producers to follow in his footsteps. His songs continue to fill hearts with hope, nostalgia, and light. For so many, Avicii's music represents freedom, the joy of being alive, the beauty of connection, and the bittersweet truth that even the brightest lights can fade too soon. Through his art, Tim Bergling taught us to cherish every moment, to speak openly about mental health, and to remember that kindness and understanding can save lives. Avicii's beats may have stopped, but his spirit still echoes, in every festival crowd, in every sunrise after a long night, and in every soul that still feels his music deep within. Avicii, a genius, a pioneer, and a legend, whose sound will forever live on in the rhythm of our hearts. Chadwick Boseman was born on November 29, 1976, in Anderson, South Carolina, a small town where big dreams often felt out of reach. But from an early age, Chadwick's quiet determination, creativity, and heart hinted at something extraordinary. He discovered his passion for storytelling while still in high school, first as a writer, then as an actor. He went on to attend Howard University, where his talent was nurtured under the guidance of mentors who recognized his brilliance. It was there that he learned not just to perform, but to give meaning to every role, to use art as a form of truth and performance as a form of power. Chadwick's career would go on to embody that philosophy in every possible way. He burst onto the scene portraying Jackie Robinson in 42, capturing the courage, grace, and unbreakable spirit of a man who changed history. He then transformed into James Brown in Get On Up, delivering a performance so electric, it felt like the godfather of soul had come alive again. Each role carried purpose. Each story he told gave voice to something greater than himself. But in 2018, Chadwick Boseman took on the role that would define not only his career, but a cultural movement, King T'Challa, the Black Panther. As the noble ruler of Wakanda, he became more than just a superhero. He became a symbol of pride, representation, and empowerment for millions around the world. His portrayal was regal yet human, powerful yet compassionate. A hero not just defined by strength, but by wisdom and heart. For children, he was a new kind of hero. For communities, he was a beacon of identity and hope. And for the world, he was a reminder that greatness can come quietly, humbly, and purposefully. Behind the scenes, few knew that Chadwick was fighting a private battle with colon cancer. Diagnosed in 2016, he continued to work through surgeries, treatments, and unimaginable pain, never letting his illness define him and never letting it dim his light. Even as his body weakened, his spirit never did. He continued to give everything to his craft, filming Marshall, Da 5 Bloods, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, roles that would deepen his legacy and reveal the depth of his artistry. On August 28, 2020, at just 43 years old, Chadwick Boseman passed away, surrounded by love, family, and peace. The world was stunned. But even in his passing, his message became louder than ever. Chadwick Boseman redefined what it means to be a hero, both on screen and off. He showed that true strength is not measured by fame or physical power, but by integrity, humility, and the courage to live with purpose. He taught the world that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they simply stand tall, speak truth, and carry themselves with quiet dignity. Through his performances, his compassion, and his unwavering faith, Chadwick's light continues to shine. He inspired a generation to dream bigger, to walk with pride, and to believe that they, too, can change the world. Wakanda forever, but more importantly, Chadwick Boseman forever, a man whose life and legacy will live on for generations to come. Michael Joseph Jackson was born on August 29, 1958, in Gary, Indiana, a modest industrial town that could never have predicted it would one day give birth to a global icon. From an early age, Michael showed a rare gift, a voice full of soul, rhythm, and emotion, and a stage presence that captured hearts even as a child. He began his journey with his brothers in the Jackson 5, a young group formed under the Motown label. With hits like I Want You Back, ABC, and I'll Be There, the Jackson 5 skyrocketed to fame, turning young Michael into a sensation before he even became a teenager. But his ambitions, and his talent, were far greater than anyone could have imagined. In the early 1980s, Michael embarked on a solo career that would forever reshape music history. With the release of Off the Wall, he set new standards for pop and R&B. Then came Thriller, the album that changed everything. Released in 1982, Thriller became, and still remains, the best-selling album of all time, blending pop, rock, and soul in a way the world had never heard before. Songs like Billie Jean, Beat It, and the legendary Thriller not only dominated the charts but also transformed music videos into cinematic art forms. Michael's groundbreaking dance moves, including the moonwalk, became cultural phenomena, mesmerizing audiences and inspiring generations of artists. His live performances were electrifying, a blend of precision, passion, and pure magic. To watch Michael Jackson perform was to witness something otherworldly, an artist fully connected to his craft, his music, and his audience. Beyond his musical genius, Michael was also a humanitarian, donating millions to charities, supporting children's hospitals, and using his fame to bring awareness to global issues. Through songs like Heal the World, Man in the Mirror, and Earth Song, he urged humanity to be kinder, more compassionate, and more united. But behind the fame and the lights, Michael's life was not without struggle. He endured relentless media scrutiny, personal pain, and the pressures of a world that both adored and misunderstood him. Yet through it all, he continued to create, to dream, and to give, driven by an unshakable love for music and for his fans. On June 25, 2009, at the age of 50, Michael Jackson passed away from acute propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication following cardiac arrest. The world stopped. Fans from every corner of the globe mourned the loss of a man who had given them a soundtrack to their lives. From Tokyo to Paris, from Los Angeles to Dhaka, candles were lit, songs were sung, and millions wept for the king of pop. But Michael Jackson's story did not end there. His music continues to live, in the rhythm of every beat, the power of every stage, and the dreams of every artist he inspired. He didn't just entertain. He transformed what it means to perform. He revolutionized dance, music videos, and global pop culture. Michael Jackson was not just a singer. He was an innovator, a visionary, and an eternal symbol of creativity. He broke barriers of race, language, and geography, uniting the world through music. To this day, his influence can be felt in every corner of the industry. From the choreography of today's biggest stars to the sound of modern pop, his legacy echoes everywhere. He reminded the world that music has no limits, that art, when fueled by love and imagination, can change everything. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, the master of movement, and the voice of generations, left the stage far too soon. But his spirit lives on forever, in his songs, his message, and the millions of hearts he continues to inspire. Because legends never die, they live in the music. Paul William Walker IV, known to the world simply as Paul Walker, was born on September 12, 1973, in Glendale, California. From an early age, Paul showed a natural charm and a quiet confidence that would one day make him one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. He began his acting journey as a child, appearing in television commercials and small TV roles throughout the 1980s. But it was in the late 1990s that Paul's career began to rise, with memorable performances in films like Pleasantville, Varsity Blues, and She's All That. His easygoing charisma, blue-eyed sincerity, and genuine warmth made him stand out in every role. Then came 2001, the year that would forever define his legacy. Paul starred as Brian O'Connor in The Fast and the Furious, a role that launched him into global stardom. As the undercover cop turned street racer, he became a symbol of loyalty, adrenaline, and brotherhood. The franchise went on to become one of the most successful film series in history, and Paul, its beating heart. For over a decade, he embodied the spirit of the Fast and Furious family, both on screen and off. Behind the wheel, he gave audiences speed, style, and excitement. Behind the scenes, he was known for his kindness, humility, and deep respect for everyone he worked with. But Paul Walker's story wasn't just about fame or fast cars. It was about compassion and the quiet power of giving back. Outside of Hollywood, he dedicated much of his life to philanthropy. In 2010, he founded Reach Out Worldwide, a humanitarian organization providing disaster relief to people in need. Whether it was earthquakes, hurricanes, or floods, Paul didn't just send help, he personally showed up to lend a hand. To those who knew him, that was Paul, humble, generous, and deeply human. Tragically, on November 30, 2013, Paul Walker's life was cut short in a devastating car accident in Valencia, California. He was just 40 years old. The news sent shockwaves across the world. Fans, friends, and co-stars mourned not just the loss of an actor, but of a man whose heart was as big as his talent. In the years since his passing, Paul's legacy has continued to shine. Through his unforgettable performances in the Fast and Furious saga, and through the ongoing work of Reach Out Worldwide, his spirit lives on. He once said, "If one day the speed kills me, don't cry. Because I was smiling." Those words, though haunting, reflect the fearless joy with which he lived his life. Paul Walker's story is one of passion, purpose, and kindness. He reminded the world that strength isn't just about power, it's about compassion. And though he was taken far too soon, his light still burns brightly through his films, his charity, and the countless lives he touched. Paul Walker, forever a star, forever family. Prince Rogers Nelson, known to the world simply as Prince, was born on June 7, 1958, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. From the very beginning, music flowed through his veins. A prodigy, a visionary, and a rebel with rhythm in his soul, Prince would go on to redefine what it meant to be an artist. Singer, songwriter, producer, multi-instrumentalist. He wasn't just talented, he was a one-man revolution in sound. From funk and rock, to pop, soul and R&B, Prince could do it all, and he did it his own way. In the 1980s, he burst into superstardom with an electrifying energy that the world had never seen before. With timeless hits like Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, Kiss, and Let's Go Crazy, Prince didn't just make music, he created worlds within his songs. Each track was a universe of color, rhythm, and emotion, raw, daring, and deeply human. His 1984 album and film Purple Rain turned him into a global icon. The movie became a cultural phenomenon, while the soundtrack remains one of the greatest musical achievements of all time. Through that era, Prince didn't just capture the sound of a generation, he defined it. But beyond his chart-topping success, what truly set Prince apart was his fearless creativity. He refused to be boxed in by labels, genres, or expectations. His style was bold and androgynous, his performances electric and unpredictable. He embraced individuality, proving that true artistry means being unapologetically yourself. Prince played over 25 instruments and produced most of his own music, often recording entire albums alone. Every note, every beat, every word carried his unmistakable fingerprint. He was a perfectionist, endlessly experimenting, blending funk with rock, pop with jazz, and passion with purpose. His stage presence was magnetic. When Prince performed, it wasn't just a concert, it was an experience. He danced with fire, sang with soul, and left audiences mesmerized. From his flamboyant outfits to his soaring guitar solos, Prince made sure that every moment was unforgettable. Offstage, he was enigmatic, private, mysterious, yet deeply thoughtful. He fought fiercely for artistic freedom, challenging the music industry to respect the rights of creators. When he famously changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol in the 1990s, it wasn't a gimmick, it was a statement. He was reminding the world that an artist's identity and creativity could never be owned or controlled. Tragically, on April 21, 2016, Prince passed away at the age of 57 from an accidental fentanyl overdose. His sudden death left millions in shock and mourning. But even in his passing, Prince's music continues to live, breathe, and inspire. His legacy is more than just a catalog of hits, it's a philosophy. Prince showed us that creativity has no limits. That art is freedom. And that true genius comes from the courage to be different. From Minneapolis to the world, Prince changed the sound of modern music forever. His influence echoes across generations, in pop, rock, R&B, hip-hop, and beyond. Artists everywhere still draw inspiration from his fearless originality, his boundary-breaking vision, and his undeniable soul. Prince Rogers Nelson, a legend, an innovator, and a symbol of what it means to live for the music. Though he is gone, his voice, his sound, and his spirit will echo eternally. Born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California, Steve Jobs would go on to become one of the most visionary minds in modern history, a man whose imagination reshaped the world we live in today. Adopted shortly after birth, Jobs grew up in Mountain View, California, in the heart of what would one day be known as Silicon Valley. From a young age, he was endlessly curious, fascinated by how things worked, and driven by a desire to create something that truly mattered. That curiosity and determination would soon lead him to make history. In 1976, alongside his friend Steve Wozniak, Jobs co-founded Apple Computer in his parents' garage. With limited resources but limitless vision, the two young innovators dreamed of making technology personal, bringing the power of computing out of laboratories and into people's homes. Their first creations, the Apple I and Apple II, revolutionized the computer industry and paved the way for a new era in technology. By 1984, Jobs unveiled the Macintosh, a sleek, user-friendly computer that introduced the world to the idea of graphical interfaces and the now iconic mouse. It wasn't just a product launch, it was the beginning of a new way of thinking about technology. Jobs saw computers not merely as machines, but as tools for creativity and expression, extensions of human potential. However, the path to greatness was not without struggle. In 1985, following internal conflicts, Jobs was forced out of Apple, the very company he helped build. But instead of giving up, he turned this setback into opportunity. He founded Next, a new computer company that focused on innovation and design, and acquired a small animation studio that would soon change entertainment forever, Pixar. Under Jobs' leadership, Pixar created groundbreaking films like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles, redefining what animation could be and touching the hearts of audiences worldwide. When Apple later acquired Next in 1997, Jobs returned home, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. What followed was one of the greatest comebacks in corporate history. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jobs led Apple into a golden age of innovation. He introduced the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad, products that didn't just change industries, they changed how we live. Each invention was crafted with precision, simplicity, and elegance, a reflection of Jobs' belief that technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. But perhaps what truly set Steve Jobs apart was not just his genius, but his vision. He believed that technology, design, and art could coexist, that great products weren't just about function, but about feeling. His work blurred the line between science and creativity, forever altering how people connect, communicate, and create. Behind the success, however, was a man who faced extraordinary challenges. In 2003, Jobs was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor. Despite his illness, he continued to lead, innovate, and inspire until his final days. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 56 from respiratory arrest caused by complications from his cancer. His death marked the end of an era, but his spirit continues to live in every device we hold, every design we admire, and every dreamer who dares to think differently. Steve Jobs didn't just build products, he built possibilities. He didn't just create technology, he created culture. Through his passion and persistence, he taught the world that those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Steve Jobs, a pioneer, a visionary, and a dreamer whose legacy will forever remind us to stay hungry, stay foolish, and never stop creating. Whitney Elizabeth Houston, born in Newark, New Jersey, was more than a singer. She was a once-in-a-lifetime voice. A woman whose sound, spirit, and soul transcended generations, genres, and boundaries. From her earliest days, Whitney seemed destined for greatness. Born into a musical family, the daughter of gospel singer Cissy Houston, and cousin to the legendary Dionne Warwick, Whitney's voice was shaped in the church, where soul met divinity, and music was a language of the heart. By the mid-1980s, she had taken the world by storm. Her debut album, Whitney Houston, released in 1985, introduced a voice unlike any other, pure, powerful, and impossibly graceful. Songs like Saving All My Love for You, How Will I Know, and Greatest Love of All turned her into an international superstar almost overnight. Then came I Wanna Dance with Somebody, I Have Nothing, and, of course, the legendary I Will Always Love You, one of the most iconic songs in music history. That song alone became an anthem of love and loss, a showcase of the emotional depth and unmatched power of her voice. It wasn't just that Whitney could sing, it was that she could make you feel. Her voice was a paradox of strength and vulnerability, soaring high with perfect control, then breaking gently into pure emotion. Critics called her the voice, and audiences agreed. She became one of the best-selling female artists of all time, with over 200 million records sold worldwide. She won 6 Grammy Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, and countless honors, inspiring generations of singers who grew up trying to capture even a fraction of her brilliance. But behind the fame, Whitney was human, tender, generous, and searching for peace in a world that demanded perfection. She faced personal struggles that often shadowed her talent, yet through every hardship, her heart remained visible in her music. On February 11, 2012, the world was shaken by the news of her passing. Whitney Houston was just 48 years old when she was found in her hotel room in Beverly Hills. Her cause of death was ruled an accidental drowning, with heart disease and cocaine use listed as contributing factors. It was a tragic loss, not just for music, but for everyone who had ever been moved by her voice. Yet, Whitney's story does not end in sorrow. Her legacy is eternal. She shattered barriers for women in pop and R&B, proving that a black woman's voice could dominate the global stage. She inspired the likes of Mariah Carey, Beyoncé, Jennifer Hudson, and countless others, artists who still speak of her as their guiding star. Whitney Houston's gift was more than vocal power, it was emotional truth. Every note she sang carried life, love, and longing. She made us believe in the beauty of human expression, in the idea that music could heal, unite, and transform. Her legacy continues to live through her songs, her performances, and the millions of hearts she touched. Even now, when her voice plays, it stops time. It reminds us of what true greatness sounds like. Whitney Houston, the voice. A legend, a light, and a timeless symbol of grace, strength, and soul. There are actors who play cowboys, and then there are men who are cowboys, even when the cameras stop rolling. Men who carry the quiet dignity, strength, and soul of the American West deep inside them. Samuel Pack Elliott was born on August 9, 1944, in Sacramento, California, to a world that was rebuilding itself after the Second World War. He grew up during a time when honor meant something, when words carried weight, and when the measure of a man wasn't what he said, but what he did. Sam's father, Henry Elliott, was a stern but principled man who worked for the U.S. Department of the Interior, managing the construction of dams and projects that reshaped America's landscape. His mother, Glyn Mamie Elliott, was a physical training instructor, a strong, supportive woman who balanced discipline with warmth. Sam spent his early years surrounded by family values built on honesty, hard work, and quiet resilience. When he was 13, the Elliott family moved north to Portland, Oregon, where Sam would spend the rest of his childhood. It was here, among the forests and the rugged terrain of the Pacific Northwest, that his character took root. The people of Oregon were tough, self-reliant, the kind who said little and meant everything they said. Sam absorbed that spirit completely. Even as a young man, people noticed something different about Sam. His calm demeanor, his piercing eyes, his deep voice, not yet the thunder it would become, but even then, distinct and commanding. In school, he was quiet but confident. He joined sports, made friends easily, and was known for his dependability. But when he began to talk about becoming an actor, people didn't quite take him seriously. After all, how could a boy from Oregon with no connections, no Hollywood family, and no money possibly dream of something like that? His father, especially, doubted the idea. A practical man, Henry believed acting was a fantasy, not a career. He wanted his son to go into something stable, something that wouldn't break his heart. But Sam was stubborn. He had a fire that couldn't be put out. When Sam was just 18 years old, tragedy struck. His father died suddenly of a heart attack. That loss shattered him. It was the kind of pain that doesn't heal, it just becomes part of you. Sam would later say that his father's death became both his greatest heartbreak and his greatest motivation. He remembered his father telling him that acting was a waste of time, and those words stayed with him for the rest of his life. Not out of anger, but as fuel. In interviews, Sam has said, "My father died thinking I was going to be a screw-up. But deep down, I think he knew I'd find my way. I just wish he'd lived to see it." From that moment on, every audition, every role, every obstacle, he carried his father's memory like a compass pointing him forward. After high school, Sam enrolled at the University of Oregon, studying English and psychology. But his heart wasn't in it. The call of storytelling, of performance, was too strong. He moved back to California and began attending acting classes in Los Angeles. But life there was hard. He didn't know anyone. He didn't have money. He took odd jobs: construction, manual labor, anything to pay for rent and acting lessons. During those years, he learned what true resilience meant. Acting wasn't just about fame. It was about surviving the grind, the rejection, the self-doubt, the endless waiting. But Sam had one advantage most didn't: patience. He wasn't looking for shortcuts. He was waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, and when it came, he was ready. By the late 1960s, the film industry was changing. The Western, once the backbone of Hollywood, was fading away. But for Sam Elliott, it wasn't just a genre. It was part of who he was. And when a film came along called Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, his life took its first real turn. When Sam Elliott arrived in Los Angeles in the late 1960s, Hollywood was in the middle of a revolution. The old guard of clean-cut heroes and studio contracts was crumbling. Young, rebellious filmmakers were reshaping cinema with realism, grit, and raw emotion. It wasn't an easy time to be a newcomer. The town was full of dreamers, all chasing the same impossible light. But Sam had something different, something no acting class could teach: authenticity. He wasn't trying to be famous. He wasn't even trying to be glamorous. He just wanted to tell stories that mattered, in a voice that was real. Sam's first break came quietly. In 1969, he landed a small, uncredited role in the legendary film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, starring Paul Newman and Robert Redford. It was a blink-and-miss-it appearance, but for Sam, it meant everything. He was on a real movie set, surrounded by real professionals. And as fate would have it, this small role would change his life in ways he couldn't imagine. Because it was on that set that he first met a young actress named Catherine Ross, the woman who would one day become his wife and lifelong partner. After that small step, Sam kept grinding. He spent years working in television, guest starring in westerns and dramas like Gunsmoke and Mission Impossible. He wasn't an overnight star. He was a craftsman, slowly building a body of work. His early TV films, like Murder in Texas and Conagra, showed his natural presence, the stoic man with piercing eyes and a heart full of quiet depth. Audiences might not have known his name yet, but they remembered his face. They remembered his voice. It wasn't long before Hollywood started to realize Sam Elliott didn't just play the cowboy, he was the cowboy. During the 1970s, Sam began carving his image as one of the last true Western men on screen. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't loud. He was steady, grounded, and unapologetically masculine, a contrast to the rising tide of fast-talking movie stars. Films like Lifeguard, 1976, gave him his first major leading role. It wasn't a Western, but it showcased the qualities that would define him: the quiet loner with a moral compass, a man haunted by his own sense of honor. Critics praised him, calling his performance honest and undeniably human. But even with that success, Sam remained patient. He didn't rush into fame. He didn't chase blockbusters. He chose roles carefully, protecting his identity as an actor who valued truth over trends. Hollywood can be cruel to men who don't play the fame game. While other actors took whatever roles they could for exposure, Sam turned many down. He wasn't interested in selling out. But that integrity came with a price. For years, he struggled financially. Casting agents often typecast him as the cowboy or the soldier. Producers said his look was too rugged, his voice too deep. But Sam refused to compromise. He knew who he was, and he trusted time would prove him right. And it did. The 1980s became the turning point. In 1985, Sam starred in the TV movie The Shadow Riders and the acclaimed miniseries The Yellow Rose. But his real breakout came with Mask, 1985, Opposite Share. In Mask, Sam played Gar, the tough but tender biker who stood by his family and his moral code. It was a role that showed his humanity, his warmth, and his ability to bring dignity to even the roughest characters. Critics called it one of his best performances, and audiences loved him for it. Then came Roadhouse, 1989, where he played Wade Garrett, the wise, older mentor to Patrick Swayze's character. It was the kind of role that only Sam Elliott could play: grizzled, loyal, compassionate, and effortlessly cool. By the end of the 1980s, Sam Elliott had become something rare, a man who could carry a film without ever losing his authenticity. And throughout it all, one constant remained: Katharine Ross. After meeting on Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and reconnecting years later, they married in 1984. Together, they built a quiet life away from the noise of Hollywood, raising their daughter Cleo Rose Elliott and living on a ranch in Malibu and later Oregon, the kind of grounded, peaceful existence that mirrored the characters Sam often played. Their love story became a Hollywood rarity, built not on fame or glamour, but on respect, patience, and shared values. In the 1990s, Sam Elliott stepped into the roles that would immortalize him. In Tombstone, 1993, he played Virgil Earp, brother to Wyatt, bringing quiet intensity and authority to one of the greatest westerns ever made. And in The Big Lebowski, 1998, he became the mysterious cowboy narrator, a man who seemed to speak for the spirit of the West itself. That deep, rumbling voice became iconic. Even those who didn't know his name knew that voice: calm, weathered, wise. By the turn of the millennium, Sam Elliott was no longer just a character actor. He was a symbol, a man whose every line carried the weight of history and whose every silence said more than words ever could. By the late 1990s, Sam Elliott had built a reputation that few in Hollywood could match. He was more than an actor. He was a symbol, a living echo of the American frontier, an artist who embodied decency, wisdom, and endurance in every frame. But even as his career reached new heights, Sam Elliott remained the same man he had always been: grounded, humble, and deeply connected to the values he grew up with. To him, success was never about the spotlight. It was about the work, the craft, and the message behind every story he told. There's something rare about Sam Elliott's acting. He doesn't chase the camera comes to him. He never forces emotion. He lets silence do the talking. Directors have often said, Sam Elliott doesn't just perform a role, he becomes it. And audiences feel that authenticity. Whether he's wearing a cowboy hat, a military uniform, or a simple jacket, there's always truth in his eyes. It's what makes his performances unforgettable. In a time when acting often meant flashiness, Sam Elliott represented something older, something pure. He made simplicity powerful again. As the new millennium began, many of his contemporaries faded from the spotlight. But not Sam Elliott. He adapted without ever changing who he was. He appeared in films like We Were Soldiers, 2002, bringing a soldier's stoic grace to a story about courage and sacrifice. Then came Hulk, 2003, where he played General Ross, tough, uncompromising, yet deeply human. He lent his iconic voice to commercials, documentaries, and animated films. That voice, rich, deep, and timeless, became one of America's most recognized sounds. From narrating the rugged spirit of the American West to becoming the voice of the Coors beer brand, Sam's tone became synonymous with strength and authenticity. Even people who didn't know his face knew his sound. Through all the fame, Sam Elliott kept his personal life guarded, not out of secrecy, but out of principle. He believed that family came first and fame came second. He and Katharine Ross built a partnership rooted in trust and deep respect. Their marriage became one of Hollywood's longest-lasting, over 4 decades of love and loyalty. They've shared the screen multiple times, most memorably in Conagra, 1991, a film that perfectly captured their real-life chemistry. Their daughter, Cleo Rose Elliott, followed her own creative path, becoming a musician and model. Sam has often said that being a husband and father means more to him than any award. He once told a reporter, "My greatest joy isn't fame, it's sitting on the porch with Katharine, watching the sunset, and knowing we built a life we're proud of." That humility, that sense of gratitude, is what keeps him human even as the world calls him a legend. Behind the deep voice and the steady stare lies a man who has known pain, loss, and doubt. The death of his father at 18 left a scar that never truly faded. Every success Sam ever had carried that silent echo, the thought of the man who didn't live long enough to see it. There were years of frustration in Hollywood too. Decades of being typecast, overlooked, and underestimated. There were moments when Sam considered giving up acting altogether, moments when he wondered if he'd ever truly make it. But he never quit. He worked harder. He stayed patient. And in doing so, he became something rarer than a superstar. He became an artist who earned every inch of his reputation. Then came the late 2010s, the years that would remind the world why Sam Elliott is a treasure. In 2015, he joined the Netflix comedy The Ranch, starring alongside Ashton Kutcher. As Bo Bennett, a gruff, old-school father, Sam gave audiences humor, heart, and a voice of moral grounding that resonated deeply. And then came one of the defining performances of his life, A Star is Born, 2018. Playing Bobby Maine, the older brother and emotional anchor to Bradley Cooper's character, Sam brought raw vulnerability and quiet heartbreak to the screen. His portrayal earned him his first Academy Award nomination, a long-overdue recognition for decades of excellence. When the nomination was announced, Sam said something that reflected exactly who he was. "It's about damn time." That line wasn't arrogance, it was truth wrapped in humor. After 50 years of acting, after all the ups and downs, Hollywood had finally caught up to what audiences already knew. Sam Elliott is one of the greatest actors of his generation. Despite his legendary status, Sam has never lost touch with the real world. He still prefers quiet mornings on his ranch to red carpets. He still drives his own truck. He still greets people with the same humility he had before fame. When asked about success, he once said, "I'm just a guy trying to do good work and live a decent life. The rest is noise." In a time of constant noise, celebrity culture, social media, and fleeting fame, Sam Elliott stands apart as a man of depth. He doesn't chase attention, he earns respect. There are some voices you don't forget. They cut through noise. They silence a crowd. They remind us of something older, deeper, something true. Sam Elliott's voice is one of those. It's not just sound. It's soul. For over 6 decades, Samuel Pack Elliott has stood as one of the last living symbols of the classic American hero, not the kind born from fantasy, but the kind carved from character. His career is proof that greatness doesn't come from speed or popularity. It comes from consistency, integrity, and purpose. From Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to Tombstone, from The Big Lebowski to A Star is Born, Sam Elliott has played many men. Soldiers, cowboys, brothers, mentors. But in every role, there's something unmistakably real. He doesn't play legends. He reveals the humanity behind them. He shows that strength doesn't mean being invincible. It means standing tall, even when you're broken inside. Sam Elliott became the face of the American cowboy, not the gunslinging stereotype, but the real one. The man who works hard, loves his land, honors his word, and keeps his emotions close to his chest. Ride, the silence of the open plains. That voice has narrated commercials, documentaries, and films, but what it truly narrates is a feeling of timeless American identity. It's why people from every corner of the world, whether they grew up in cities or small towns, connect with him. He reminds us of something we've all lost a little bit of: simplicity, honor, and grace. Over the years, Sam Elliott has received countless honors, from critics, fans, and peers alike. He's earned nominations and awards from the Academy, the Emmys, the Screen Actors Guild, and the National Board of Review. But ask him, and he'll tell you that his real reward isn't a trophy, it's the respect of the audience. He once said, "I don't care about being the biggest star. I just want to be someone people trust on screen." And that's exactly what he became. Every generation has its icons, but few manage to stay relevant without changing who they are. Sam Elliott did that. He grew older but never out of touch. His presence today, gray-haired, steady, wise, is even more powerful than it was in his youth. As Sam Elliott moves through his later years, there's a certain poetry to his story. He's often spoken about mortality, about legacy, about what it means to look back on a life of choices. He has said that the greatest lesson he's learned is patience. Patience to wait for what's right, to endure what's wrong, and to accept what can't be changed. He's seen friends and fellow actors pass away. He's watched the industry evolve into something unrecognizable from when he started. But through it all, he's held onto his moral compass, that invisible line his father drew all those years ago. And in many ways, that's the quiet beauty of Sam Elliott's story. He didn't just chase success. He built a legacy that reflects who he truly is: calm, loyal, unshakable. Today, Sam Elliott still works, still inspires, and still carries himself with that same quiet confidence that first captured audiences half a century ago. He continues to lend his voice to film and narration, still rides horses, still lives surrounded by the serenity of nature, far away from the chaos of Hollywood. He and Catherine Ross remain partners in life and love, their relationship a rare Hollywood miracle. They still attend events together, their affection and respect shining through in every glance. Sam's days are slower now, but no less meaningful. He spends time reflecting, writing, and caring for the land that's always grounded him. When asked what he's most proud of, he says simply, that I stayed true to myself, that I never had to fake being who I am. That's the kind of peace few ever find. Sam Elliott's legacy is not measured in box office numbers. It's measured in trust. People trust him, as an actor, as a man, as a symbol of honesty. He represents a generation of storytellers who believed that acting was about truth, not fame. And long after the lights fade and the credits roll, his characters stay with us, teaching us something about courage, loyalty, and the power of quiet strength. In an era obsessed with speed, Sam Elliott reminds us to slow down. In a world filled with noise, he teaches us the value of silence. In a business built on ego, he shows us humility, and that, more than any award, is what makes him immortal. So here's to Sam Elliott, the man with the voice that sounds like thunder rolling over the mountains. The man whose gaze can tell a story without a single word. The man who never needed to pretend to be a hero, because he already was one. From the dusty trails of Tombstone to the soulful notes of A Star Is Born, from the laughter of the ranch to the quiet wisdom of every character he's ever played, Sam Elliott has given us something rare: authenticity. He taught us that strength can be gentle, that manhood can be kind, and that even in silence, a man's spirit can speak louder than any voice. As long as stories are told, as long as films are watched, as long as people believe in truth, Sam Elliott's legacy will never fade. Because legends don't die. They ride off into the sunset, leaving the world just a little better than they found it. Folded hands. If this tribute moved you, please like this video, subscribe to Gone Legends, and share it with others who wish to honor these remarkable individuals.